What's up guys, Mizzo Frizzo here, and I am very excited to announce that I'm going to be recording a short tutorial series on how to make a multiplayer first-person shooter in Unreal Engine 5. Now what you're seeing in the background is some images of the finals. What we're going to be making is not anywhere near the caliber of the finals, but I do think it's a great example of good first-person shooter game design. In my opinion, online first-person shooters have been somewhat lacking in recent years, and the devs that got together to make the finals obviously had a very clear idea of what they thought would make a good competitive online first-person shooter. You know, what with the weight classes and abilities and equipment and dynamic destruction, beautiful graphics. It really is a great game. If you haven't tried it already, I highly recommend you check it out. I've been playing a bunch of it in the past few months, as you can see by my screen recordings here. Now, I do want to say that, yes, we're not going to be making anything near the caliber of the finals. These are still just beginners tutorials, but, you know, it gives us something to aspire to. I don't expect this series to be very long, maybe even only 3 to 5 episodes, and my goal is to cover the most bare essentials of a multiplayer first-person shooter in the first few episodes. But if you do have any ideas of what you'd like to see in the series, please do leave some recommendations in the comments. Just, you know, don't be butthurt if I don't respond or you don't get the response that you're expecting. You know, I can only make tutorials on what I know about. I only know what I know, and I can't make tutorials about what I don't know about. So yeah, that's that. So without further ado guys, let's get started. Alrighty guys, all we're going to be doing today is some basic project setup and get some basic functionality set up. So with that in mind, I'm going to create a new project using the first person template. We don't need starter content, we're not using any C++, and just hit create. And the very first thing I'm going to do once the editor has fired up is add the third person content pack to my project. So I can click down here and add feature content or pack, and add the third person content pack. You'll know this has been added because you'll see a couple of new folders down here, namely characters and third person, so you can close this. And the other thing I want to do is get the anim starter pack from the Unreal Marketplace. So open up the Unreal Marketplace and find this asset pack, the animation starter pack. It's by Epic Games themselves, so you can hit add to project, and you want to search for your project, and if you're using 5.3 it won't show up here, but you can search for your project and click show all projects, select your project, and then select the most recent compatible version, which is probably going to be 5.2, and hit add to project. Once that has downloaded and added, you want to find that folder. It's created the anim starter pack, and I'm going to right click in here and create a new folder. I'm going to call it UE5, and then I'm going to filter for animation sequence. If you don't have this filter here, just click here to browse through the filters and find animation and animation sequence. So I'll filter for animation sequence and then press Ctrl A and then right click and go retarget animation assets, duplicate and retarget animation assets / blueprints. You can select the IK retargeter RTG UE4 many UE5 many. This one is included in the third person content pack. That's why we added it. So we can select that one. And I'm going to change the directory here to my UE5 folder that I created. And I'm also going to add a prefix here, UE5 underscore, UE5 underscore, and hit retarget. This may take a minute or two, depending on your rig, and it should take you to the folder where these have been created. So very nice. Now we have a bunch of animations for the UE5 mannequin, retargeted, such as this idle rifle iron sights and idle rifle hip that we're going to be using. Very nice. Okay. Another thing I'm going to do before I forget is I'm going to go into the third person folder here, and I'm just going to delete the input folder. Hit delete and delete that one and force delete. We're not going to need any inputs for the third person character. We're just using the mesh and the animation blueprint for other players to see. And those input mapping contexts have the same name as the one in the first person folder, IMC default. So yeah, we just want to delete that input folder. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is set up a mesh for other players to see. So if I click here and change the number of players to 2 and the net mode to play as listen server, and I'll also click new editor window for the pie. Oh, we've got an error in third person here. It will be related to all of the inputs. That's no worries. We can just delete those so that we don't get any more errors. We're not going to be playing using this character blueprint anyway, but we'll just delete those so we don't get any errors. And now if we hit play, what you'll notice is that there is no mesh visible here. So right here I am running in front of the other player and you can't see anything at all. And if I pick up this gun here, you can just see the gun and no character model or anything. And the gun doesn't even rotate up and down when we look up and down. So these are the main things that we're going to be working on today. We're going to create a mesh for the other players to see, and we're going to make it look up and down. So what we can do is we can first open up our first person blueprint, which is in first person and blueprints, BP first person character. And I'm going to add a skeletal mesh component, and I'm going to make it a child of the capsule component. So add a skeletal mesh, and let's just call this third person underscore body. Make sure that that is a child of the capsule component, and then I'm going to select the skeletal mesh asset, which is going to be, let's use many, SKM many. So we'll select that, and we want to rotate it this way 90 degrees, and we also want to drop it down and make sure that it doesn't go through the ground. So I think this is going to be negative 94. Let's try negative 94, see if that works. Let's also apply an animation blueprint, so we can just apply ABP many for now, like so. Very good. And we also want to search for owner and check owner no C, like so. Owner no C. And now if we hit play, we should have a character and he runs around. Very good. Nice. We both have a character and that the other player can see. And if we go and pick up the weapon, you'll see that it just spawns in the shoulder like this, and the animation is not changing at all. So let's fix that up right now. Now you'll notice that in the first person character there is a boolean called has rifle. So when we pick up the rifle, has rifle is true. And what we might do is use that to just blend in a different animation, which will be the idle rifle hip or idle rifle iron sights. It really depends which, it's up to you which one you want to use, but I might use idle rifle iron sights. So I'm going to use this one here. What we want to do is first add a socket to this skeleton for this this template rifle to attach to. So let's find the skeleton in characters, mannequins, meshes, and right here, SK mannequin. And I'm using many, so I'm going to change the preview mesh here to SKM many simple. And I'm just going to click this apply to asset that pops up down here because it's just applied the asset temporarily. Now when I open up the skeleton, it will always have this preview mesh. Let's also select a preview animation, and I'm going to find my idle rifle iron sights. Where are you? UE5 idle rifle iron sights, like so. I'm going to pause this and just take it to the first frame. And then I'm going to find the right hand and right click and add a socket. And I'm just going to leave this one called hand R socket. We will be adding our own weapons later, and we won't use this socket. We're just going to use it for the template rifle for now, just so that we can get things set up and make sure that they're looking nice. So on hand R socket, let's add a preview asset and find the gun, SKFP gun, and let's rotate it more or less into the right position. And you may want to turn grid snapping and location snapping off. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just going to, and you can see that it's kind of not level with the ground. You want this to be your base pose, so you want it basically facing the same way as him. So we might fix that up in the actual animation. So right now, all you want to do is just look at the position of the right hand. So I was way off there with the hand position. Let's even just rotate this like so and get his finger through the trigger guard and his thumb through that bit there. And that'll do for now. And then this is good practice because we can then find our animation, UE5 idle rifle iron sights. And I'm going to pause this and take it back to the first frame. And then I'm just going to make this look a little bit nicer by going to the skeleton tree here, finding the right hand, and I'm going to bring that up and also the lower arm, and I'm going to make sure that I check this, change this to world space instead of object space, and I'm going to tuck that into his shoulder like so, and then bring this down so that it's in against his shoulder and the weapon is level with this plane that he's standing on as a reference here. So I think that looks much better. And let's also just play with his left arm a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth here and even play with his thumb and make his thumb kind of sit on the outside of the weapon like so. And his fingers here. And for fingers, I like to change this to object space. And I'm just going to bring each of these out a little bit so they're not clipping through the gun like so. Ring will be the next finger. And pinky. Pinky's looking a little bit bent out of shape there. That's all right. That's fine how it is. Just like that, that'll do. And then I'm going to press Control A on the skeleton tree here to select all and add a keyframe for all. And now if we hit play, it will move around a bit and it's not going to stay exactly where we put it, but that looks pretty good for 2 minutes work, if I do say so myself. All right, we can save that and close that. And then let's go into ABP Many. So if we select our third person body here, we'll see the anim class that we selected. We can browse to that. If you are using ABP Quinn or Quinn's Mesh and ABP Quinn, you still want to make all of the changes in ABP Many because ABP Quinn is a child of ABP Many. So no matter which one you're using, you are still going to open up ABP Many and you're going to make all of your changes in here. And the first thing I'm going to do is make this a direct reference to our first person character. So we can delete this and we can cast to our first person character, BP first person character, plug in the execution pins here, and also select this set variable node here and change the variable type to your first person character object reference, an object reference to your BP first person character. Change variable type. Very good. Yeah, we might get some issues here. Don't worry about this too much for now. If we compile, what errors have we got? We got no errors. Very good. The next thing I'm going to do is tidy this event graph up a little bit. I'm going to select this comment here and I'm just going to Control C the first few words here, set velocity and ground speed. I'm going to Control C that, and then I'm going to select all this, right click, collapse nodes, paste in set velocity and ground speed like so, and I'm going to do that with each of these. So Control C, whoops, Control C, set should move. Select all of this, right click, collapse nodes, Control V, so on and so forth. Set is falling. Nice. And let's get our has rifle. So let's add a pin here. Let's get our references here, a character reference, and we'll get has rifle. We'll promote this to a variable and just leave it called has rifle. Plug this in here. And then let's collapse these nodes and call it set has rifle. Like so. Now we've got access to our has rifle. We can use that to blend to our animation that we've just changed. So let's go over to the anim graph, and if this isn't open, you can just double click on the anim graph right here. And one thing that I've noticed is that as soon as you change any of the animations in the default animation blueprint, the foot IK just stops working. So we're just going to delete that. We're not going to have foot IK. That is a whole another sort of realm that we're not going to dive into in this series. And let's grab our default slot and our main states, and let's start by doing a blend for the upper and lower body. So we can drag off of main states and find layered blend per bone. Plug this one in here. Select the layered blend per bone node, and up here in blend mode branch filter, drop down layer setup and index, and then add a new branch filter. Drop down the index on that branch filter, change the bone name to spine_01, and make sure you check mesh space rotation blend and mesh space scale blend like so. We can plug that in there. And then we also need an upper body animations cache. So we're going to create a cache up here. And first, what I'm going to do is just blend by bool, blend poses by bool, and then plug in the has rifle into the action value here. And if it's false, what we want to do is use our main states. Actually, I'm just going to disconnect main states here, and I'm going to drag off of it and cache it to a new save cached pose. And I'm going to rename that to main states. And if we don't have a rifle, we're just going to use main states. So use cached pose main states, plug that into the false pose here. And if it's true, what we're going to do is use our UE5 idle rifle iron sights right here. Idle rifle iron sights, and I'm going to make sure I check loop animation on that one. Just going to double click that one to make sure that's the one. That is the one. And then here, after my blend poses by bool, I can cache that to a new save cached pose, and I can call that upper body anims. And then I'm going to call upper body anims down here. Use cached pose upper body anims. Plug that into the base pose. And now when he picks up the rifle, the upper body, why is that? We have, sorry, base pose should be main states, and this should be plugged in down here. My mistake. Got ahead of myself there. Use cached pose main states. Plug this into the base pose. Now you should go back to normal. And when we pick up the rifle, it should blend the idle rifle iron sights onto the upper body here, based on that boolean that we passed over. So let's try that out. Yep, Very good. It's blended the animation, and now we just need to change this attachment of this weapon. So let's find our weapon component. It should be in first person and blueprints, and you've got these BP pickup rifle and BP weapon component. Go into BP weapon component, and then what we're going to do right here where it attaches is make a separate attachment for the player that when it's another player. So it uses something called is locally controlled. So if you make a reroute node here on the first person character reference and find is locally controlled, put that on a branch. And then if it's true, we want to just attach as normal. But what we can do here is we can duplicate this node down here and plug the false into this one. And instead down here, what we're going to do is drag off of this character reference again, whoops, and get our third person body. This one, get TP body, plug that into the parent. The target is the self. And the grip point is the socket that we created. So let's just find our skeleton again real quick. Characters, mannequins, meshes, SK mannequin, and hand R socket right here. I'm going to press F2 to rename and then just Control C to copy the name to make it foolproof. We can go into BP weapon component and paste that into the socket name like so. And then after that, it will just go on to continue this code up here. Very nice. So now, if that player is not locally controlled, meaning basically that it's another player in your instance, it will attach that to that socket that we created like so. Very nice. Let's duplicate this start. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of some of this stuff, and I'm going to duplicate this player start like so, turn it around about 180 degrees, and I'm also going to duplicate the rifle pickup so that we can check that it's working for both players. So there, the animation is changing and the grip point is correct. That looks very nice indeed. And then, oh, I'm just going to turn the volume down so I don't blow my eardrums. And then I will select the other character, pick up his rifle, and very nice. That's all looking correct. Okay, to cap today's tutorial off, let's just add some vertical aim offset, procedural vertical aim offset. Now, if we go into our ABP many and our event graph, I'm going to add a pin down here, and this is where we're going to set a rotator that's going to rotate the 5 spine bones of our character. So I'm going to grab my character reference here, and I'm going to get base aim rotation, like so. I'm going to right click here and split the struct pin, and then the Y pitch value here is what we're going to be working with. First, I'm going to subtract it off of 360. I am also going to multiply it by -1, so I'm going to negate it. And I'm also going to check if it's greater than 180. Use this to select float. And I'm not going to go into why it's calculated this way, but basically it's when you look up and down, the value that this outputs is it's different when you're above horizontal to when it's below horizontal. So you know, we need to use this to basically select whether we either negate it or minus it off 360 to get a proper rotation. And then I'm going to divide this by the number of spine bones that I'm applying it to. So I'm going to apply it to 5 spine bones. If you want to set this up differently, so that I don't know, that it looks differently, that it looks better, maybe set up a different way, you just want to divide this by the number of bones that you are applying it to, because we're applying it to 5 spine bones, so it's effectively multiplied by 5. So you can change it, but I recommend following along for now, and then, you know, making small changes and testing to make sure that you don't break anything. Off of here, I am going to make a rotator, and I'm going to leave that plugged into the role. That's what we need. And then here, I'm going to promote this to a variable. I'm going to call it pitch rotation. I'm also going to Control-C pitch rotation, because then I'm going to plug in this execution pin. I'm going to collapse all these nodes. Collapse nodes. And I'm going to call it set pitch rotation or calculate pitch rotation. Nice. Now we have a rotator that we can use to rotate the spine bones of our character. And that base aim rotation is replicated as part of how Unreal replicates movement. So there's no need to do any special setup to replicate that. It's already done for us. We can go to the enum graph now. Just going to move this stuff up here. Going to grab this stuff and move it way out here. And then I'm going to right click and search for mod and find transform modify bone. I'm going to click on this transform modify bone node, and here under translation pin here, I'm going to uncheck expose as pin. I'm going to leave rotation exposed as a pin, but I'm going to change the rotation mode to add to existing. Scale, I'm going to unexpose that as a pin. Alpha, unexpose that as a pin. So you've just got this one pin called rotation, and the rotation mode is set to add to existing. Now that that's done, we can duplicate this 4 times so that we have 5 of them. Plug them all into one another. And then grab your pitch rotation and plug it into all of these rotation pins on these transform modify bone nodes. And then the last thing you have to do is select each one of these and change the bone to modify. So I'm going to change the first one to spine 1, second one to spine 2, third one to spine 3, fourth one to spine 4, and the last one to spine 5, like so. Very nice. And now if we hit play, we can grab a gun. You'll see that his animation has changed. He has this vertical aim offset, and that's all looking very nice indeed. Now you will notice that here this projectile is replicating. If I grab the other player, it is not replicating on the server. Don't worry too much about that. Like I said, we're going to be adding our own weapons to this project. This is all we set out to do today, is to set up a mesh for other players to see. So I think that's pretty cool. He looks really nice with his grip right there and the vertical aim offset. All looks pretty nice. So yeah, that's all we set out to do today. If you haven't already, guys, please hit like and subscribe. And if you're so inclined, please do consider making a small donation to the channel via the YouTube Super Thanks function. It really does go a long way to keeping me going. And once again, guys, I'm super excited to bring this short series to you and to see what we make together. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.